about a study of personality, energy styles of people in business. While both introverts and extroverts can succeed in business, a third type is favored. So, Carl Jung he's famous for developing analytical psychology. He wrote a book in 1921 that is called Psychological Types. From his research, Catherine Briggs and her daughter Isabel Briggs Myers came up with a test called the MyersBriggs Type Indicator. And from their test, you get these 16 results. Has anyone in here taken that test? Yeah, a lot of people. I took my first test in college, and I've taken several since then, since my first one. Let's see here. My results always come back as an introvert. And as an introvert, I had some questions and concerns about my future in business. I'm exhausted when I get home from being at school because of all the social interaction, the group work, and everything that goes into being a student. So looking forward, because school is such a struggle for me, I was wondering how I would do in business. How could I possibly survive? In my initial research, I found a lot of information about introverts and how there are many successful introverts in business. An example of these leaders are Larry Page, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, Mark Zuckerberg, Warren Buffett, and Bill Gates. Then I studied a bias. I found a bias that still exists for introverted people and extroverted. The extroverted people get paid more than the introverts in business. And that was kind of disheartening to me, so I dug a little deeper, and I ran across an article that has a third type of energy type, and it's the gray area. It's the middle ground that 2/3 of the population identify with. It's neither the introvert nor the extrovert. It's called the ambivert. Introversion is turning inward towards the inner world of ideas, feelings, fantasies, intuitions, sensations, and other facets of the subjective experience. An introverted type finds most of his or her meaning and satisfaction not in the outer world of people, objects, things, accomplishments, but rather in the interior life, the inner world. Extroverts, on the other hand, live almost exclusively in and for the exterior world, deriving fulfillment from regular interaction and outer reality. This description of introversion is the best one that I have read. It explains exactly what it's like to be introverted. The preference to read, paint, or garden instead of going to a get-together, party, or barbecue is real. Not needing nor wanting a lot of material things or recognition is also a big part of looking inward. What an introvert really wants is to have experiences. Reading can take them anywhere they want to go without actually having to leave the house. They can watch nature and growing plants. Going for hikes can be very fulfilling. Creating things and expressing ideas and feelings through color and shapes are important. Everything is fun for them until they are asked to look outside of themselves. Introverts have a difficulty dealing with the outer world in general. Extroverts have equal trouble attending to the inner world. At the opposite end of the spectrum, extroverts get energy from people and the outside world. They love parties, people, material things, and recognition. The more socialization they get, the more alive they feel. Most people are not on the extreme ends of this dichotomy. An example of extreme introversion would consist of problems such as pathological shyness, social phobia, schizoid personality, autism, or even psychosis. Extreme extroversion would express itself as compulsive activity, workaholism, mania, and addictive behaviors, serving the purpose of avoiding introversion or self-reflection at any cost. This I found pretty fascinating. This and the next slide. The reticular activating system is in our brain stems and is connected to the frontal lobes of our brains by neurons. This system is responsible for monitoring our sleep and our wakefulness. Extroverts have low arousal levels, resulting in them seeking outside stimulus such as parties or always having the TV or radio too loud. Introverts have a high level of arousal, so they take in more information per second than the average person. Therefore, they tend to get overwhelmed easily and seek solitude or quiet places. Hans Eisnick, PhD, and Zenith Petrie, PhD, conducted research on the energy levels of extroverts and introverts. The conclusion of their study is shown in the chart that I have here. Most people rank somewhere in the middle of this continuum, in the 70%, in the middle. Because extroverts have low arousal level and need outside stimulation to feel happy and find their energy, they are called augmenters. They are located on the far end of that screen. Because the introverts have elevated level of arousal, they're called diminishers and make up another 15% of the population. They're on this extreme end here. Another study that was conducted in 1999 by Deborah Johnson, PhD, and John Wiebe, PhD. In this one, they used PET scans, that are positron emission tomography. And what they did was they were trying to prove the idea that of introverts and extroverts not only having the psychological problems, but also physiological as well. They told their test subjects to think freely while being scanned, and the results were remarkable. The introverts showed significant brain activity in the frontal lobes of the brain and the anterior thalamus. This is important because these sections of the brain are in charge of planning, recalling events, and problem solving. The extroverts showed more blood flow in the posterior thalamus and posterior insula areas of the brain, which handle interpreting sensory information. Therefore, introverts look inward and extroverts look outward. Introverts and extroverts have different experiences when it comes to the business world. When hiring new employees, interviewers tend to be attracted towards the extroverts' outgoing traits. Extroverts answer questions quickly and confidently. They exude competence and dedication. Introverts answer questions slowly and after thinking. They are quiet and they may seem nervous or uncomfortable, especially during an interview. This gives introverts a distinct disadvantage. During the last 5 to 6 years, there has been more of a focus on understanding the introvert energy type. The book Quiet, The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking was written by Susan Cain. That was written in 2012. Since her book came out, she has participated in several interviews, talks, and she runs blogs about introverts and the value of their traits. Extroverts, she says that extroverts are routinely chosen for leadership positions and introverts are looked over, even though introverts deliver better outcomes. They are not perceived as leadership material. Cain has also said that introverts are better group leaders because they are better listeners. However, extroverts are perceived as great leaders because they speak more and are outgoing. This leads to extroverts getting chosen for the high-ranking positions. This is also very interesting. A report by Truity Psychometrics shows that introverts' average income of $44,000 per year, while extroverts had an income of $57,000 per year. According to the study, extroverts are more willing to take on challenging, high-paying jobs. On average, extroverts supervise 4.5 people at work, while introverts supervise 2.8. Extroverts get paid more money because they're more social. They are chosen to manage more people than introverts are. Sometimes introverts refuse management positions because they do not wish to be in management roles. At other times, they wish to be in management roles but get passed up for the position. It's important to let your boss know if you want to seek out a management position. Do not leave it to your boss to guess your career goals. The chart shows how much money people earn by personality type. The left of the graph shows the introverts making the least amount of money, and the right side shows the extroverts making the most amount of money. But yet you notice in the middle, there are 3 types that are holding their own amongst the extroverts. These are at the 52K level, and the ISTJ at the 59K level. An ambivert, as mentioned before, is the 70% of people who fall in the middle ground. between the introverts and extroverts. Carl Jung mentioned this middle ground in his book Psychological Types when he wrote, "There is finally a third group, the most numerous and includes the less differentiated normal man. He constitutes the extensive middle group." Now the term ambivert was coined by Hans Eysenck in 1947. Ambiverts are favored over both introverts and extroverts because of their social flexibility. They can adjust to different situations better than either of the other two energy types. Adam Grant, who has a doctorate in psychology, has done research about why ambiverts are better at sales than extroverts. He says, because they naturally engage in a flexible pattern of talking and listening, ambiverts are likely to express sufficient assertiveness and enthusiasm to persuade and close a sale, but are more inclined to listen to customers' interests and less vulnerable to appearing too excited or overconfident. Adam Grant shows his findings of sales revenue by levels of extroversion on a 3-month period. As extroversion peaks, sales peaks, according to the regression equation, maximum revenue should be reached by employees with a 4.5 on the 7 extrovert scale, after which revenue should decline. Ambiverted employees at the mean of extroversion are predicted to generate $151.38 per hour, compared with $114.96 per hour for highly extroverted employees, which is 1.5 standard deviation above the mean, and $126.80 for highly introverted employees, which is 1.5 standard deviation below the mean. This research shows that all 3 energy types can be successful in business, with the ambiverts doing the best due to their social flexibility. It is reassuring to know that introverts are becoming more valued and more people are becoming aware of the traits that can be of great use in the business world. This is thanks to Susan Cain's book, Quiet, which has caused a new trend in giving introverts the positive attention and support which is long overdue. This information is valuable for my future in business. Knowing what type of energy people are can help me figure out how I can best relate to them. If someone is an extrovert, I would talk to them in a more energetic and confident way. If someone is an introvert, I might want to speak more quietly. If I can't tell, it is most likely that the person is an ambivert and will be able to adapt to either type, and they can actually help me with who I am when I struggle. So I plan to use this information when I own my own business one day and oversee the hiring of employees to work with me. Understanding how people use their energy can help me to create a work environment that has both high energy and quiet spaces to work. Any questions? We're excited.
On that slide you had of all those very successful men, and they were all men.
Yeah.
Do you have any examples of the introverts, introvert women, and what about extroverts who are highly successful? Are they the same number of them, or?
I'm sure there's more extroverts.
Yeah.
Than men.
There's some pretty notable faces there, though.
Yeah, and there are successful women,
Yeah.
introverts as well. I just don't have any names right off the top. But
Susan Woj, I don't
Susan
know how to
Cain.
pronounce, no, well,
Oh, no.
Susan Gates possibly, Susan Wojcicki, who's the 23andMe CEO, might come to mind.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.